Hey everybody, Mrs. Bianchi. We're looking at question 10. Based on the equation 481 divided by 74 tenths equals 65, which equations are true? Choose all of the correct answers. All right, so there's basically three things that we have to review to have you be confident on how to approach this. One of the things to consider is something that we looked at in class where if you have, and we're looking at a simpler version of this to help you understand. If you do 12 divided by 3, that equals 4. What if we reversed these? Is that still true? Is 12 divided by 4 3? And would that work for any quotient and divisor? Does the quotient and the divisor always equal the dividend? And if you rotate them around, is that always going to be true, even if you use different values? And the answer to that question is yes, it works. So one of the things that you should look for is you should look for one in the lineup here where they have this in the divisor position and this in the quotient position. In other words, these two things reverse. Look in the lineup and see if that's true. All right, so that might be one that you pick. All right, the other one that you might pick, the second strategy, is to understand how multiplying by or dividing by any power of 10 does not change the quotient. So in other words, if we were to move this decimal over 1 to the right, so essentially what did we just do? We multiplied it by 10. That means if we multiplied this by 10, we would also be moving the decimal over 1 to the right, which means that we'd have to put a 0 there. So what does this become? We're looking at 4,810 divided by 74. Now, is that a choice? Do you see that as a choice in the lineup anywhere? And does that show it equaling 65? So what about the idea of multiplying by something other than 10? Like what if we multiply by 100? We multiply this by 100 and we multiply this by 100. That's supposed to still equal 65. So if we multiply this by 100, we'd be moving the decimal over 2 to the right, or adding 2 zeros. We'd be moving the decimal over 2 to the right, which makes that number 740. So what are we looking at here? We're looking at the idea that 48,100, because the decimal's here now, divided by 740 would still equal 65. Now keep in mind, we can also divide by the same power of 10. So instead of multiplying, what if we divided this by 10 and we divided this by 10? That would have the same result of it still equaling 65. As long as you're either multiplying or dividing by the same power of 10, we would always get 65. So if we divide by 10, that's the same as moving the decimal 1 to the left. 1 to the left. So that puts the decimal here. Instead of being where it is here, now it puts it here. So we're looking at 48 and 1/10 divided by 74 hundredths equaling 65. So is that a choice in the lineup? Now be careful, because we're not talking about 65 hundredths. We're talking about the whole number of 65, the decimal being at the end. Now, if this strategy is not working for you, then we do have another strategy. So the other strategy is the idea that if you take the quotient and multiply it by the divisor, it should equal the dividend. So let me say that again. Quotient times divisor should equal dividend. Quotient times divisor equals dividend. So let's say you think choice E might be a potential example, right, of one of those that we would want to check. You would take these two numbers and multiply them together, 65 hundredths times 74, to see if you get this number. This is the best strategy for those of you who are not confident with dividing. Now, if you're just as confident to divide, then of course you can just do this divided by this to see if you get this. But this is probably a faster way to go. Now, if you're just doing the standard algorithm for division, and let's say you think it's choice E, then just do the 48 and 1/10, divide that by 74 to see if you get this number, because remember, you got to raise that decimal. This is a whole number divisor, so that means we've got to raise the decimal directly above. Now, we are going to be dealing with the digits 6 and 5, but the question is, where is the decimal in the quotient? So choose your strategy for which one makes the most sense to you, and finish up, because remember, you have to choose all the correct answers. I'm going to tell you that there is more than one correct answer.